Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. Have some ideas about a fictional thing, each one featuring different levels of seriousness. Spoilers, here we go. The opening contained Dealey with Aerith hanging out near that planet power vent thingy. Must be her listening to recently departed spirits, possibly even Zack, which let her know Cloud will be near soon. Sir Spike scalps a jerk at first because he's trying to act like Sephiroth in his confused state, who Kid him admired preceding the Nibelheim incident, before settling on imitating his just-mentioned friendlier dark-haired soldier buddy, whom he started looking up to after joining with Shinra and not realizing the first dude sucked. His buried true instincts settled solely on the latter because he realized that guy was actually still cool when the other one started being totally unhinged. He glances up at the beginning Big Bad's building because Genova reunion crap compels him to. Healing items might be stashed up like extra-filled first aid kits within various blue-collar Shinra facilities just in case an employee starts showing signs of Mako poisoning. That grounded restore materia is likely what triggered Cloud's memory of the "not just a reactor" comment. After all, it did come right after a sinister shampooer gave him a refresher on how said stuff is made. Also, Sephiroth probably placed it there himself via clone puppeteering because he realized Captain Confused Cranium is now primed for manipulation. Sort of like how he teases him later by tossing a destruct at him in the mansion basement. Barrett would have almost definitely made sure his bodily modification was compatible with all enemy firearms because he'd then be able to constantly screw with his corporate foes and help himself by stealing weapons from them. Jesse's constant foot problems may simply stem from a wanted criminal not being able to purchase new clothing often, thus resulting in always donning crappy shoes and all that. There's no security footage of number one's destruction because Hojo Manny crap makes them not put cameras in those places. The news spread fast of Avalanche taking credit because some wannabe in Sector 7 who spies on stuff at the bar bragged with lies that involved him taking part to make himself look cool. Floating City. Pretty unsettling sight. Cloud's actual personality might slip through on occasion early on because he was never around Zack under similar circumstances and thus wouldn't know what kind of reaction to imitate. Doesn't get you after a while. Conductor guy may recognize bashful big blade bearer from finding him during peak breakdown time. Texas signs. There's gotta be a thing about the poker variant still being around because it was named after a word from some old Cosmo Canyon dwellers or whatever. Tifa could probably constantly catch glimpses of his true mannerisms busting out, at least on an unconscious level, hence her asking if he's feeling alright following first flashback funkiness. Cloud just wants to leave early on because before he's reminded of the promise he made to Miss Ultimate Childhood Crush, his 9 non-existent real memories aren't enough to pull him away from the Sky Calamity calling hijinks that a certain headless thing is currently doing unknowingly. Marshmallow Bear might gather his planet-protecting pal's money by selling the scrap from security systems he can't alter himself with. Tifa isn't hesitating over jumping out of fear, rather she's simply reminiscing over her master Zangan and deciding which of his cool landing poses to utilize. Slow ATB filling following not selecting a limit is likely representative of the difficulty level present in concentrating enough to ignore super adrenaline hoopla. Literal machine workers must regularly operate simultaneous switch system stuff. Phantom Flower Fighter could suddenly jump that gap after being threatened because she was getting closer to the aforementioned break status. The white materia might have actually been doing something up until now. Aside from its main purpose, of course. That is, it was what allowed plants to grow near Aerith's home. Commander Crossdresser could very well have not been wearing deodorant up until this point because he didn't know what brand the friend he's mimicking used. They'd prefer squats because it helps firm the buttocks, a body part that's favorable for development among both male and female athletes. Apps was probably bred for taking care of anyone trying to sneak into Don's mansion from the sewers to rob him or whatever. The trains are lit up precisely to help guide drunk people who wander over here get back home. Lady Fisticuffs might have even set this up herself, given she's the owner of a popular bar. Rumors regarding the plate falling likely got leaked by Reeve in an attempt to let people flee. Reno doesn't have cool stuff to steal in this first fight because he didn't want to risk dropping something he couldn't retrieve later on account of the aforementioned giant disc crushing it. That wire was likely meant for letting maintenance people from up above get lowered down to fix the support pillar. These guards aren't here to make sure people don't break in, but rather their purpose is to ensure disgruntled employees forced to stay late don't deface those golden busts of the Shinra family. The rate hike is obviously to compensate for the lack of Sector 7 electrical payments. Scarlet smells the vent stronger than usual because there's extra folks using that bathroom since the one on the previous floor is out of order. Sephiroth's hold over Cloud likely isn't nearly as strong as it seemed. He probably wasn't capable of taking absolute manual control of him without a giant Genova piece around, due to previously existing strong feelings between the two preventing true direct takeover crap. Thus his ultimate plan, which totally would have worked if it weren't for petty grudge holding, finally starts once the stab-resistant kid glances at his current Calamity container. This chase beginning crap is likely carried on by shape-shifting, full manipulation-capable cloaked copies into people who can eavesdrop on the party undetected, and then transforming back into white mane form right in front of individuals who will pass on gossip said crew will hear. Hence things like that initial Black Cape Man rumor started its spread right after the Nibelheim story confirms his little nemesis' current mental fragility. Cloud thinks Bear can do something with Hojo's gadgets because he's part machine himself. This random number letter creature must have been something made from spare lady nipple eye parts to test out the aforementioned rejoining hypothesis. It started really moving just now when Pointy Locks looked in that research container. Tifa and Cloud are locked in the same cell because Dr. Horrifying Science requested it. He simply wanted to see what two non-black garb-shrouded burnt hometown survivors being together would cause. Vested Sniper likely hasn't attempted driving since losing his arm. Aerith probably never had the chance to learn while hiding from Shinra. Finally, in addition to the obvious difficulties present in vehicles not typically being designed for quadruped control, Red 13's fiery tail makes even going inside the truck problematic. The other blue security grunt isn't recalled very much because Rio Mentality sections block dialogue exclusively tied to the super social Zack, so full self-loss doesn't occur. Keep wandering around here and you'll be in trouble. This statement gets uttered because true flashback protagonist knows exactly how the people of the town will react to strangers pacing about. It isn't until the world's best minion shows up that the line about visiting family and friends is recalled. In addition to shenanigans, Cloud would find most personal getting Cepha blocked. Things like his visit to his mom would be hard to remember because Mr. Nice Guy would have ignored them as a result of privacy respect crap even if he were around. Also, the sequence is controllable because that's what the buried actual persona is trying to regain against the fake Z-Man one. Sephiroth is able to show the photo to Cloud later because he really did swipe one of the copies from that guy's corpse. Oh, and friendly huge hair haver looking over there might be him checking to see if Medium Dude's actually going to join in too. The limit gauge won't fill here because odd adolescent's adoration of good and bad first-class dudes made it hard for him to recall what they were like while in danger. Hojo must have taken that mountain fountain treasure while cleaning up the mess this disaster left. Also, he may have put that into the reactor after modifying the former Genova room, and that's what made the nibble huge materia. Cloud can recall the dialogue from when the Himzak avatar left into the reactor because Tifa memories aren't able to be messed with. The Masamune couldn't obliterate the containment chambers and such earlier because of course Shinra wouldn't give their prize experiment a tool that can let him discover a secret birth junk by force. He figures out how to break the security protocols after reading that crap in the basement. These test tubes are clearly intact but easy for Dynamic Duo to escape later because they're originally from the Vincent experiment and hadn't undergone any maintenance whatsoever until after this incident. Sephiroth likely had an easy time setting this place ablaze because he had fully leveled fire and thunder materia, with at least one all support, which he could casually switch between those two depending on his needs. On the other hand, he may have kept it solely on lightning, so sadistic time taking could ensue with the more direct deal. Turks are trained with most common weaponry, plus improvising with household items and other whatnot, so they can carry out their missions anywhere without worry of being truly disarmed. Purchase, steal, use whatever's around. The ability to outrun powerful creatures like Midgar's Alms is what led to Chocobo's remaining popular enough for the farm to prosper, even with automobiles available. Sources might have been developed by Professor Gas in an attempt to gain the ancient supposed powers before learning that they actually were mostly communication/healing based from his future wife. Going past the Mako wind-filled northern crater-like area in Mithril Mine might be how Elna got up on that cliff. Barrett didn't think Rufus was deceased. He was referring to paying respects to his father, President. Yuffie's the only one with a face showing disguise because she hasn't attacked Shinra yet. Variable sizes of things like a magical heat blast is because the planet provides different levels of spell strength depending on the threat the Mystic Rock user is facing. Heidegger's left behind at Costa del Sol because he's in charge of the search for a runaway lab coat dude, and their intel said that guy was seen there. Hojo probably did in fact annihilate those 3 women in an experiment. Maybe he injected them with Genova cells to further test reunion junk. That tent was placed there just in case this fellow felt like a baddie in his new cave home. The lone good executive may have based his stuffed mech design off of 2 gold saucer games he enjoyed in his spare time. The fortune-telling machine and Mog House. Oh, and he thought of an extra large one based off the gag ending where Mog gets too fat. Plus it needed space for all his machines and whatnot. Kate Sith wanted to get away from the crime scene quickly so he could report all those deceased soldiers back to Rufus. Dine's left arm likely got rendered useless because he landed on it. Dangerous Dad probably started his slaughtering spree now because of the increased Bad Business Bureau presence on account of their Sephiroth search. Joe's so good with horse birds because he used to ride them while running from the law. Sephiroth really did head towards Gon Gaga, just to lure Cloud there so he could adjust his screwing with the guy plan accordingly based on how he reacted to being in Zack's hometown. Reno and Rue don't have anything to steal near Gon Gaga because they don't want to dirty up their nice gear out in the boonies. There are multiple Turtles Paradise flyers in Cosmo Canyon because the owners know that other place is another harsh terrain surrounded tourist attraction, just like Wutai. Thus it's already full of people who'd be likely and able to go there next. Nicer experimenting man could have very well helped build Bugenhagen's observatory machine with knowledge he learned from Ifalna about globe-chatting hijinks. Aerith likely learned how to really use the white materia during her time here. The funny-looking rocks one can break to summon Gi spirits must be their graves. The black megaphone found in the Crevice Invader Cave may be the earliest one conceived in this world. Hojo couldn't help but leave behind that note hinting how to release even shadier Cape Crusader because he likes people to see his completed experiments, which in this case includes both said fellow and the lost number in the safe. Studying Nanaki and Seto's tribe likely resulted in him replicating the Cosmo memory limit. The legendary tossed barrier remover may have been made in some spare vats that didn't contain Cloud and Zack. Also, Silver Slaying Stallion went here again to best study how to screw with first former friendly after verifying what he's actually been through. Shinra was able to perfectly replicate Nibelheim because they already had the blueprints for everything when they got permission to build their mansion and the reactor. They fixed the bridge too because they weren't aware it wasn't destroyed as part of Sephiroth's Pyro Rampage. The Materia Keeper was likely developed to protect the budding huge namesake bearer in the nearby power supplying building doodad. This truck that hit Palmer was for hauling the tiny Bronco away so it could be transported somewhere more suitable for takeoff, possibly the Junon Airport via the cargo ship. Yuffie can only steal so many mighty magic marbles because she doesn't have access to the whole party's bags and whatnot once she flees. Shelled Sanctuary doesn't want anybody taking the famous promotional ads off because giving away a potentially unending source supply isn't as money draining as losing the advertisement power is. Items that cast scrap may be forged from materials mixed with and or soaked in lifestream residue or something. The hidden magic shuriken may have been intended by Goto as a peacemaking gift between him and Dastardly Daughter that he keeps having second thoughts about giving. Yuffie likely didn't want you buying better weapons to make sure swiping any just obtained material was easier. Goody Grabbing Gal has lots of sway over these merchants, not just because of princess status, what have you, but also since she's the person purchasing things most on account of being one of the only fighters left in Mutai. She isn't just hiding to keep the pilfered power product, but also so she can check on her people. Final flyers found in Lady Looter's loft because said woman's the one who put them up for Turtle's Paradise as a favor, seeing as she was already planning to travel the world anyway. Corneo must have bribed King Emperor Daddy Issues to obtain some ninja minions and also get a ladder to check on the pagoda in order to free up the Palace Temple for his temporary lair shenanigans. The guy's simply desperately in need of money after his country got ruined and everything. Her weapons aren't all boomerangs, she's simply traditionally retrieving most of them after they're embedded in enemies with super ninja stealth speed. The Turks must have sabotaged Gold Saucer's tram after getting a signal from Reeve. Speaking of which, Deceitful Dude demands a recap so he might find out intel that slipped through Shinra's grasp so far. The semi-spirit, etc., who are hanging on like this progress-noting fellow must call on the same extra memorizing planetary power that save crystals do. Oh, also those things are likely a specialized type of material which record grand feats the planets to witness folks perform. These areas with collapsed walls must be places people without the keystone tried busting in at. The ancients devise a way for that black material to get escorted out with an extreme sacrifice just in case something was going to destroy their homeworld anyway. Didn't want it moving on, obliterating more of the solar system after all. Cloud starts hitting Aerith wildly after being controlled by Sephiroth because his true self that was failing at resisting used to get into fights all the time as a kid. Buried impulses suddenly bursting out due to new trauma and everything. Gal Pals of Greatness likely decide to let Broken Brain Boy rest at Gongaga because they hoped his memory might get jogged at his friend's hometown following his recent extra severe identity crisis. Sephiroth must be picking up on her praying for Holy and is transmitting it to Cloud, hoping he'd stop her. Hence him hearing Aerith. Comet's creation could have come about because the ancients wanted to tell stories with a minor demonstration of meteor while warning others of its power. Also, they might have desired a method of taking debris in space away in small amounts so the full-on real deal could never be used again. Speaking of which, said sinister spell seems like a corruption of the way planets naturally form. World Will was hiding weapon because it feared Genova might be able to infect it directly as well. The Costa del Sol tourists are warm because there are material slots and thongs like most other equipment. Those things really do have the best support. Cold Crushed Kid was willing to part with his precious snowboard because he figured anybody tough enough to take on a certain rotten megacorp so easily was also durable enough to take the pain of falling until they got good at it. These balloons and various snow creatures like Moogle were made by the real ones who still exist in this world but usually hide from humans as stated in 5 and 6. There's a prompt for changing memories instead of just going straight to the screen because Cloud's extra worried about who goes with him after what happened to Aerith. Bats always attack surrounding these icicles because they're bothered by the sound of avalanche trying to knock them down. Cloaked copies drop items because they need healing along their journey just like the party. The Genova pieces masquerading as Sinister Semi-Son never have anything to steal because all their equipment is shapeshifted. When Sephiroth starts showing everybody the version of 5 years ago with Zack, he actually places Cloud near his real self in the story without verbally informing him it was him. First class soldier level half-truth mockery right there. Lifestream located Miss Gainsborough may have been manipulating the other Guardian forces in order to help the party out, hence them getting a perfect chance to take back the Highwind right before the worst happened to Tifa, especially since Sapphire prioritized letting her loose over destroying the main artillery. Oh, and also these dudes don't hurt the party unless they're attacked first, so there's that too. The Sister Ray's original purpose may have been to take out any Leviathan summons Wutai sent after Shinra. She'd have a relatively easy time scaling the cannon because of practice gained from climbing the Sector 5 plate. The tiny Bronco would have been confiscated by Rufus. The buggy got taken back by Dio once he heard Avalanche was going to be executed on TV. Mr. Chocobo Sage is likely also a Cetra ghost. He remembers more once you take out a lot of enemies because their souls return to the planet, and strengthening the energy well juices up his ghost brain too. Oh, those delightful gargantuan Gaia Guardians landed near Juno to keep an eye on the party, hence the newer big crater. Gates of Hometown, how it all started. From Evil Manipulator's point of view, it's when he wants Sir Edgy Yellowhair to think his life began. From the true self perspective, it's where his mind started fragmenting. Cloud decided upon talking with his neighbor crush extra hard that day because hearing that her mom just passed away made it seem like he could relate more than the other kids, since he's always had one parent. Tifa likely started reciprocating his feelings once he tried to save her from the bridge because he was the first boy who seemed like he could fulfill her rescue fantasy. Her being in a coma for 7 days back then probably caused her own subconscious to replicate it once Cloud's mind fully broke because her remembering own self-malarkey would make saving him that much easier. He likely got by with only scraped knees thanks to his spectacular limit break power. There are openings for Chocobo stables now because the person rented them before recently heard a certain distracting amusement park was about to close and gave up on those gambling dreams. White Choco Chick likely picks up all the spell supplying stones that wash up from the Lifestream geyser Medeal is famous for. It seems that in addition to not being near-world energy-draining reactors, the natural development of ultra-strong materia requires people simply not harvesting them early, period. Lucretia's hideout may be some sort of prayer place the ancients utilized as they roamed this globe. The Typhon summon is in a pouch instead of just sitting around in ordinary glowing rock form because somebody was here before and tried to collect it but later got wiped out by various traps and or beasts. Death penalty could very well be the gun Hojo shot Vincent with. They have some trouble lifting that debris because gravity's getting funky in the upper atmosphere, especially while they're closer to that magic space rock, which automatically pulls such stuff into itself. Obviously, on that note, Meteor looks to have reformed even stronger since the spell can now pull in the obliterated rocket's pieces. Only something like Holy totally obliterating it can do the job. The premium heart must have been something Zangan ordered for Tifa shortly after dropping her off at that Midgar doctor. This music box video player must be an ancient magic deal meant to show the viewers wherever they need to see to feel at ease. Diamond and the others have modern warfare mimicking name-sharing attack whatnot because the planet was developing them over the eons they slept based on what could be a threat upon wake-up time. Rufus likely had an escape hatch installed in that very spot he's standing, which appears to be where his father was slain by a Sephiroth clone, and read himself experiencing the same fate. Hence Mr. Fearmonger disappearing here before the flames reach him, and also his later appearances. Yuffie has no shoot because of fancy ninja landing techniques. Vincent lacks ears since he has at least one wing transformation. Kate Sith is simply an extra durable plush toy at this point. It might have got super upgraded after an old building needed to be collapsed on the first version. Reeve must have planted the things like these sources and that double item material in those tunnels with a spare mechanical Mog just before his new friends arrived. Speaking of some of that, item duplication occurs because the planet summons stock like any other magic. Cunning Colossal Cat was seeing if he could bust himself out of headquarters. The missing score might be some ultimate armament Barrett ordered on the black market that Shinra hijacked. Courageous Combat Cat's real body would have left it here for him after he found it investigating Hojo's current shenanigans. Cloud's Ultima weapon may have been something the similarly named planetary beast turned itself into upon realizing said fellow actually has the land's best interests in mind. The prayer before their final fight would have been the start of this process. Ruby must have been super far underground and then decided to mostly emerge upon hearing the aforementioned Dark Dragon's death throes. Calm old collector guy must have all this nifty junk because he was a member of one of the older iterations of Avalanche. The friends he wants to pray for were of course too. Getting rid of that awesome stuff must be some way to fully honor a vow of disarming or whatever. Knights of Round may have in fact come into being solely to take care of a scenario in which those weapons' actions weren't actually beneficial to the planet for some reason. Or at least so there was another option before they were activated. Or both. Also, the lowering down thing is actually them transferring the threat to another universe so the world doesn't get harmed too. That thing where Colossal Crimson isn't damaged until its claws reach underground must go something like this. The heat from dry air heals him when everything's exposed, but he's also less powerful when doing so because there's nothing directly connected to the planet. Look at that number! Sephiroth ensured the experiment tags were visible so Mosey's main man would have an extra reminder of what happened to his hometown. This thing containing the ultimate white magic must be some sort of corrupt copy of the Cocoon Spirit Energy doodads placed that evil legendary soldier in. This form is probably what Sephiroth deemed would freak Cloud out the most. Seems somewhat inspired by the monsters that came out of the Nibble reactor. Nobody needs long range during the Bizarro fight because they can all float like that in battle too. Must be assistance from the planet itself, especially when it comes to avoiding the core crushing them with gravity. Safer can get out of reach because they're in some sort of Genova mysticism altered subdimension by that point. Oh, and this form is just his total strength utilization. Each use of supernova must destroy an alternate universe and then shift to the FF7 one when it reaches Earth's point, which is the same location Gaia would be. Last mental demon Big Bad clutches the wound recovered main hero made in real life when he snuck up on him in the crater. This moment before he realizes it's Steve reaching out to him must be live-streaming Candide Aerith using Great Gospel to heal Cloud of the physical aspect of a Sky Calamity infection. Oh, and she helps Cave Collapse Crap get the high wind down there, and especially safely. It rode her instead of her riding it. That's kind of a kept promise. Before getting fully unleashed, Holy must be somewhat protecting people already by directing Meteor towards Midgar, a place with the resources to evacuate everyone and also conveniently somewhere that's greatly damaging nature too. By this point in time, the original Northern Crater wound likely finally healed as well, with Genova completely gone. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.